We're going to introduce you to Python and also Flet. Flet is a UI for Python. So you can put icons, you can put text of different sizes. To get started, we're going to use a packaging tool called UV. You'll need to install this. UV is like pip, PIP. You might be familiar with installing packages with pip. We're going to be using UV instead of pip, so you need to grab it with this curl command and install UV. I'm now going to start a new project with UV. So UV init. I'm going to use a specific version of Python. Python equals 3.13. I'll call my project list comp for list comprehension. It creates the project. There's a new folder in here. I'm going to change the directory into the new folder. And I have 3 files here. I'm going to start up an editor. I'm going to use Cursor. In Cursor, we're not going to use the AI and we're not going to use the agents. So I'm going to do Control or Command Option B on the Mac, and that will collapse the sidebar for Cursor. Also, there's a Cursor tab here. I'm going to snooze it for 1 hour. Flet 1.0 beta was released at the end of December 2025. We're going to use an installation method that will work both for 1.0 beta as well as for the 1.0 release when it comes out in the future. You will need to have UV installed, and you have to have it accessible. In my system, it's installed in .local from my home directory. So if you just do CD from the command line, you get into your home directory. I have mine in local bin. If you installed UV from the UV official script here, which is what the tutorial covered, it is installed in .local bin, and then you'll have the UV executable there. But this may not be in your path. You can probably just reboot the computer, and then it'll read in the environmental variables for your path. But I'll show you. So if you just do ls, you won't be able to see the files that start with a dot. And there's a couple here on the Mac dot profile, which will run the environmental commands in this .local bin. Which causes the path of where you have UV to be installed. So if you haven't rebooted, it may not run. Right? So the solution without rebooting is simply to do source.profile, and it will run the script. And now if I do which UV, I have it in the place where I installed it. So now that I have UV, I can now use the command UV add. I'm going to put quotes. You can use either single quote or double quote. They'll function the same. It's flat. And then there's a square bracket, all. And then you have to make sure you end it. So it's UV add, and then quote, single or double, doesn't matter, flat, square, left square bracket, all, right square bracket. So let's press it, enter. So it should have installed a number of dependencies. Okay, let's look at it with LSA. You'll notice that it installed a .venv and a .lock. So we can use the command less to look at the .lock file. And there's a bunch of things here, but if you search for back, so slash and then flet, you can see that it's actually installed version 0.80.2. If you're watching this in the future, there's probably a newer version of Flet. I believe this tutorial should still work with the newer version of Flet, at least until it gets to version 1.0. There's also this .venv, which is automatically created. And there's, in here, there's something called activate. So we'll go dot dot slash dot dot, which takes you back to the root of the project, which is where I have all the files. So now I'm going to do source.venv bin activate. And now I'm running the version of Python that I have on this in this particular project. The reason to do this is twofold. One is so that you don't mess up your system Python. You don't have a bunch of dependencies or packages that's on the Python that ships either with the Mac or with Windows WSL or Linux. The other reason is so that you have a replicable environment that you can use the same environment for the other members of your team. So if you're following the tutorial, we're using this certain specific version of Python on a certain set of packages. This portion of the video with UV and with Flet 1.0 beta was updated after we released it on YouTube. I encourage you to join this free course. It's 100% free. There's no credit card. There's nothing required. There's no upsell to it. The course has 19 chapters and 104 lessons, all free. They clear that it's 100% free. There's no paid course either. Once you log into the course, you could view it in full screen. You can see what your progress is, and it's much easier for you to organize your learning. There's no catch to it. We're just making it freely available because it was difficult to organize it in the YouTube courses. So sign up for the course if you have a moment, industry-python.thinkific.com. There's a little main.py here. I'll do Command B to collapse it, and I'm going to reduce the size a bit with Command -sign. So we have a little bit more space. And we could run it like this. And it says the string here in the main. However, it's not very exciting. We're just on the command line, so we want to have some type of GUI. So I'm going to import Flet as ft, and the def main here, we're going to go page as the variable. That's the input to this method. And the type is going to be ft.page. So this is a Python optional typing. And just to be clear, it's going to return null. So there's no return on this. So at this point, it will still work. We can get rid of this. And if we do ft from right there, dot run main, which is the method name here, we can now try to run it again. So I'm going to do flet run main. So we now have this window. It says flet at the top. So we have the page that's getting inputted right there. So we'll start with that same variable, page dot add. I'm going to add a piece of text. So ft, we just imported from Flet. And then we're going to do dot text for a piece of text. And we'll put a string here. I'll say, hello, I am Craig. And maybe put your own name just to be fun. So we have it right there. Okay. But at this point, we could go to the end of the quote and put a size, and we could make it a number like 50. Right. So just put size 50 and it's now bigger, or maybe even make it more exciting and it's 80 and we have it pretty big. And if we make it a color, red. Okay. So now it's nice and red, or we could make it green, or we can make it blue, or a yellow. Okay, maybe I'll leave it at yellow. Looks like a little bit like a bee. Okay, this is pretty fun. I'm going to create a folder here, a new folder. I'm going to call it assets. I'm going to find a picture. So I had the AI create this little assets for me. I just dropped it into asset and it's like a PixArt. You can also go to itch.io. There's many sites like this and you can browse for game assets. And then under the game assets, filter results to free. And you can find many of these asset packs here. Just put it into an image editor like GIMP to find the one that you like. I think in the past I have used this Sproutlands, and there's a little rabbit-like character there. But I'm using my little character here that I'm calling Corey for a future game. Okay, so I've set up the assets directory and it's called assets. So I'm going to specify it here. I'm going to go assets underscore directory. I'm going to put these quotes. I want to call it assets. I'm going to save it now. Now I can add a graphic to the page. So I'm going to do FT, which is our Flet. And then I'm going to go image here. I'll do a round bracket. I'll put double quotes and I'll put the name of the file. Remember what it was? It's right up here, right? So it's Corey underscore front.png. And we're good to go. Oh, I guess I put my own name. I guess you could make you could have put a picture of yourself, I guess. But let's go Corey. Right, let's review what we learned. We used UV, the Python package manager, to install a bunch of packages. One of the packages that we did install is Flet. So UV is the Python package manager, and Flet is this package that adds a UI component to it. And the UI component is this that you can see where you can move it around. We can put buttons, graphics on it. And then we learned how to import a Python package. And the keyword here is simply this import statement. So this is how all Python packages are installed, and it's import. The name of the package, in this case, it is Flet. And as is a keyword, and we can specify any word here, but by convention, Flet often uses an FT, so it's a shortcut, right? So you could do Flet here as well, but we're just putting FT because it's shorter than the word Flet. We define a function. So the way you define a function in Python is the keyword def, and there's a special function here called main. we can create additional ones with the same convention. And there's some round brackets here, and there's a colon over here. And inside the round brackets, there's a variable that is passed into it. And when it's passed in to this function here, it's generally called a parameter, or that's what people often call it. And there's a colon here, and if you're not familiar, this is a little funky, but this just specifies the type. So it will work without this ft.page. And this thing that looks like a pointer, this arrow here, is simply say that it's going to return null, none. So this main function does not return anything. And this things with the colon is the Python optional type hints that we'll be using in this course quite a bit. It's a little newer, and you may not have learned it in school because your school might be using curriculum developed maybe more than 5 years ago. And this is primarily the way that Python is done nowadays. So congratulations on making your first Flet application. You can play around with it. In the future, we're going to be focused on Python data structures. So for example, a list and list comprehensions. Join our 100% free course to get more lessons, slides, code examples. See you at industry-python.thinkific.com.